last time on possibly the greatest alchemist of all time. After building a secure village for the stranded people of Pioneer Town in just 10 days, Takumi tries to hire the widow named Manny as a cook. While she refuses initially, after Takumi saves her from a bush wolf attack, she changes her opinion of him and agrees. Sidonia finally summons the heroes, sending menacing shockwaves all around. With the prophecy proven to be accurate, will Takumi be able to stop the impending war and save this world? Stay tuned to find out. In episode 11, Nolan and her attendant discuss the heroes' rapid growth that had allowed them to reach Ranka within just 3 months. Nolan predicts that Sidonia will be making their move anytime now. While in the kingdom of Sidonia, Elizabeth informs the heroes that the time to introduce them to the nations of the world was finally here. Akira thinks this would be a good opportunity to show off to the world what they were made of. Surprisingly, even Akane, who had thus far been against all this, seems on board with this plan as well. The town Takumi helped build gets named Wedgefort. As the villagers learn blacksmithing and start growing crops, it seems that the new town was already a bustling cradle of life. In the wood, however, while they're fighting monsters, Keed shows Sophia a strange-looking monster she hadn't seen before. Sophia recognizes it as a bush lizard, but is surprised over what it was doing here. She reports this to Takumi, that the monsters were getting stronger all of a sudden. Sophia speculates that this had something to do with the mana disruption that happened 3 months ago, which only Takumi knew was actually the hero summoning. Doran shows up and tells Takumi that Godwin had summoned him back to Bolton since he had a quest for him. He also mentions that heroes had appeared in Sidonia a few months ago, confirming Takumi's suspicions. Maria believes that perhaps the heroes were sent by the goddess to help mend the corrupt politics of Sidonia, but Takumi knew that wasn't the case, as they had summoned them themselves using forbidden magic, although he did hope they were good people regardless, and would actually do what Maria was suggesting. Meanwhile in Sidonia, the king sends off the heroes on their visit. Yamato expresses disgust over Akane's slave Lulu joining them too, but Akane quickly backs her attendant. At the guild, Hans tells Takumi about the heroes' appearances. They were 2 young men and a young woman, with each having black hair and eyes. Takumi realizes they were all Japanese as well. Sidonia was taking them to churches of divine light around the kingdom of Romalia and Barkula with the intention of applying pressure on these nations using their followers. Hans then tells Takumi about his quest, which was to escort these heroes to the royal capital, Bakalatos. Manny, unwilling to be left behind, requests Takumi to let her join the mission as well. Takumi shows reluctance because of the unpredictable nature of the quest, but after Maria favors it too and Manny shows her puppy dog eyes, Takumi is left with no choice but to say yes. During their journey to Bolton, while Akira and Yamato talk about enslaving elves from Barkula, Akane quietly thinks to herself about Bakalatos being the place where, according to her revelation, she would be able to change things. As the girls get their ranks leveled up after quest completion, the heroes suddenly enter the guild, making a ruckus from the get-go. Akira and Yamato then start pestering Takumi about buying Sophia and Manny off him. Takumi calmly refuses and asks them to leave. Not taking no for an answer, these two draw their weapons, which is the final straw for Takumi as he swiftly breaks Akira's sword using decomposition and slams Yamato on the ground. They get up and warn Takumi they'll get him back for this as they leave after being humiliated. Akane then rushes over to Takumi and starts apologizing for their behavior. She then asks Takumi's name, and before she can say anything else, Takumi silences her and whispers her the name of the hotel he was staying at. Akane takes Lulu and sneaks off to the hotel. Guards try stopping her, but thanks to Sophia and Keed's backup, she reaches Takumi at last. Akane gets right to the point and asks Takumi to tell his true identity. Takumi doesn't trust her at first, but after she swears she wasn't a spy, he agrees. Takumi then discloses all the information regarding why and how he was here to Akane and the girls as well. The girls believe everything he tells them, surprising him. Sophia suggests that Sidonia was the enemy and responsible for the mana fluctuation that was having grave side effects on this world. Feeling guilty over the trouble being caused, Akane starts apologizing to Takumi. Takumi doesn't consider it her fault and instead asks Akane why she was so different from the other two. He speculates that Sidonia was perhaps brainwashing them by slipping something in their food and water, while Akane was safe since she had been purifying all her meals beforehand. She then grovels on the floor, begging Takumi to help her and Lulu. Takumi comforts her and starts off by removing Lulu's collar. He then takes these two to his mansion in Bolton and feeds them fresh cream stew. Experiencing a familiar taste after so long brings Akane to tears as she gets to relax a little for once. Simultaneously, a huge stampede of monsters gets spotted heading right for Wedgefort all of a sudden. Takumi calls the girls and tells them he was going to remove and dissolve their contracts again. But unlike before, he wasn't going to ask them to leave him, and instead wanted them by his side as his family instead. The girls step forth, and Takumi completes the process smoothly. Later, as he is upgrading a sword, a sudden alert from the guild informs him about the emergency at Wedgefort. The season finale takes off with Takumi arriving at the guild, finding the Lion Fang already there. Guildmaster Barak tells Takumi that Captain Doran had asked for their help after a massive horde of monsters started stampeding towards Wedgefort. Though they had called in all the B rank and above adventurers, they were unfortunately all out on quests at the moment. This left only 3 available parties: Lion Fang, the Wings of Nolan, and the last one being Crimson Rose. That's when Merylda, Crimson Rose's leader, and her party pop up. She greets Takumi, saying she had heard great stuff about him and his party. Barak tells Takumi and the others to go to Wedgefort to support Doran and his knights. Takumi leaves Akane and Lulu behind at the mansion, and before leaving, he gives Sophia a new sword, the Holy Sword Amaterasu, while for himself he forged the sublime sword Tsukayomi, which, while not as lethal as Amaterasu, was very effective at inflicting mental damage via the slightest scratches. Upon reaching Wedgefort, they discover some monsters had wings, enabling them to go over the ramparts. The 3 parties dive into action right away, each showing why they were so well respected. Takumi and the Wings of Nolan use the drawbridge to fight the monsters that had gotten inside, while Lion Fang and Crimson Rose take care of things outside. After defeating all the monsters inside and asking Manny and Reva to provide medical aid to the injured, Takumi takes Sophia, Maria, and Keed with him and joins the rest at the rampart. There he witnesses something quite peculiar. The monsters were all retreating into the forests together. Real points out that such coordinated behavior was not normal for monsters. They were moving as if someone was commanding them, a monster that could lead other monsters. Takumi doesn't find this theory that unbelievable, as he speculates that perhaps that mana fluctuation from a few months back had caused the monsters to evolve. There definitely was a reason why even Goddess Nolan prohibited summoning magic. Meanwhile, in the kingdom of Sidonia, news about the stampede is brought to the king. Wanting to take advantage of this opportunity, he orders his men to deploy his troops too. That's when his conniving daughter, Elizabeth, suggests they instead raid Barcula's allied nation, Samandor, with the heroes, rendering them incapable of lending Barcula any support. Reva informs Sophia that Takumi had used up all the healing potions on the injured and kept none for himself. Sophia goes over to talk about this, but the ever-generous Takumi tells her he didn't need them as long as he avoided injury. This selfless nature of his that always prioritized others over himself is exactly why Sophia had dedicated herself to protecting Takumi, even at the cost of her own life. A second wave of monsters, even greater than the previous ones, starts approaching. The magic-using adventurers deal the first blow, while the infantry and Camilla charge in after. Heath and his party take the left side of the battle, while Merylda's party takes the right. Sophia then starts advancing too much. Takumi tells her to fall back a little, but she remains adamant about being in control and keeps at it. The monsters then suddenly start retreating to the woods again. In the woods, as they are passing through, a bush lizard starts attacking and chomping on them, growing in size as a result. The evolved beast that was most likely the leader, now having taken the form of a 2-headed dragon, flies out into the open. It goes after Sophia, who tries outrunning it, but is not able to dodge its tail swipe. The dragon blasts her with its attack, but Takumi is able to grab her from there in the nick of time. Camilla starts attacking the monster then. In the short instance, Takumi had taken his eyes off her. Sophia takes off and invites the monster's attention to herself to save Camilla. This time, however, Takumi can't save her, and she takes a direct hit. The rest of the girls immobilize the dragon, and after taking Amaterasu from Sophia, Takumi shows the true might of his new swords by taking out the terrible lizard. Takumi then rushes over to Sophia and starts tending to her injuries. Having almost lost her out there, Takumi gets emotional and yells at Sophia for being so reckless and not caring about her own safety. After learning from Heath and Merylda that the rest of the monsters had been cleared as well, Takumi faints as a result of low energy. Thankfully, he regained consciousness not long after, and after a few days of repairing Wedgefort, Wings of Nolan returned to Bolton again. Around that time, Sidonia's notorious heroes, Akira and Yamato, massacre a helpless town in Samandor. Upon their return, Maria and Manny throw a grand BBQ party to celebrate their victory. As things had been awkward between Sophia and Takumi ever since Wedgefort, the girls decide to do something about it and send Takumi with some BBQ over to Sophia. There's an awkward tension between the two at first, but once they both start telling each other the reason behind their actions was care and well-being of the other, things start returning to normal. That is until Akane jumps in and ruins the whole mood. Takumi gets permission from Lord Godwin about sheltering Akane and Lulu in his mansion. Godwin notifies Takumi about the recent massacre of a village in Samandor at the hands of Sidonia's heroes. Akane starts feeling guilty for their actions while Takumi reassures her it wasn't her fault. He then pays a visit to Goddess Nolan, asking if she had a plan for all this. Nolan still maintains her previous decision of leaving it all in Takumi's hands, as he was Midgard's only hope and had the potential to possibly be the greatest alchemist of all time who could change the